I'm just getting over COVID again, and it proves to be a real battle this time. So, but without any further ado, let me begin by stating, as city attorney, I strive to have the city act in a lawful manner. While the goals of MKE United Anti-Displacement Tax Fund are laudable, Mayor Tom Barrett and I voiced concerns about the couture contract early on. Alderman Bauman, however, just days before the council committee vote, contacted the developers about requiring them to pay $100,000 into the MKE United Fund that provides targeted property tax relief. Then he introduced a motion to amend the couture contract and that payment. I objected and tried to get the provisions removed from the contract. That would have been easy and easier at that time and simpler to resolve this matter and its concerns. I had and have many concerns about illegalities, while at the same time allowing the couture development to proceed. It was with an agreement. Instead, it was determined that the contract provisions would remain and the $100,000 would be placed in escrow with the title company. I thought that was an agreeable for us to move forward while we tried to find resolution. And of course, it would be pending a mediator, a decision maker, third party, to be that vocal point to make the decision. With the Common Council being represented by outside lawyers, had the payments required been removed from the contract as I urged, those other expenses would not have been necessary. And we are constantly seeing other expenses emerge from the decisions, and I believe that sometimes they were stated that it was due to some of the actions of the city attorney. But here we'll clear that up. I've been trying for almost a year to get the agreement with the council president and a scope of work, the terms of engagement for the mediator decision maker, and I've even, without duty to do so, released an initial position statement on January the 7th of 2022, explaining that the couture contract, section 13.4, requiring the developments to pay the $100,000 to MKE United Property Tax Relief Fund, violated Wisconsin Statute 66.0617 as an unlawful impact fee, also violating the state constitutional uniformity clause, also violates the U.S. and state constitution equal protection clause. In addition, it is an unlawful exertion under the unconstitutional condition doctrine. You can't mandate illegal clauses in a contract. I also contend that Alderman Bauman, in his 11th hour solicitation of that payment, also violated state and local ethics. Wisconsin Statute 19.591B and Milwaukee City Ordinance 303-5-3, which states that there is no vote peddling. And it does not, for the record, require any personal benefit, so you understand. Also violating MCO 303-5-5, the misuse of a position. To date, I'm kind of concerned that the press had not recognized the aforementioned concerns. They do, however, exist. And for some reason, they were not reported on. We hear other reports, other stories, but none dealing with the facts. Due to me raising these concerns, In retaliation, a city ordinance, MCO 304-21, was amended, removing the city attorney's contract review authority. So as you commit a crime, we will remove the eyes that are in place to determine whether it's right or wrong out of the process, so we can continue to move forward with the illegal acts. As a measure, Mayor Barrett agreed that action of the council was not wise, and there were attempts to remove members from my staff to only further in this sort of activity. I can only assume other attempts by certain council members to circumvent the city attorney's office was to continue to engage in wrongful behavior of this sort. Now, Alderman Bauman has introduced a file, 211-682, to be heard tomorrow in the Zoning and Neighborhood Development Committee, February 22nd, as an attempt to skirt the issues of illegality and to sweep the couture matter under the rug. That file would do away with independent review and decisions by that third party mediator. I object and urge the council not to be complicit in that effort by Alderman Bauman. Additionally, this weekend, I believe that if this measure moves forward, that it will not be met with satisfaction by the current mayor, and action would be taken. Further, let it be known that I plan to seek involvement by the Wisconsin Attorney General, the Wisconsin Ethics Commission, and the U.S. Attorney's Office to look into these matters and others. Let me tell you, this illegal activity must stop. We must bring awareness to it and stop it. And it's been occurring too long in City Hall. On February the 17th, which was the other day, 22, the City County Circuit Court, case 2007 CV 013965, involving Tricorp Housing and Alderman Bauman. 2 counts of defamation was awarded against Alderman Bauman personally for $1.4 million. But the council had previously agreed to indemnify his behavior. Now, I'm not against that or opposed to that. I understand when you try to do public service, you try to protect your colleagues. But it comes to a point when repeated behavior shows you that the efforts to continuously bully, to exert yourself past your authority, and when it costs the city and the taxpayers, something must be done about it. And that's why I'm speaking to you today, to let you know that these actions will be taken. And it's not a single action. As you looked, and if we have some investigating reporters here, investigate. You'll see that over the years, many projects and decisions made by Alderman Bauman have resulted into millions of dollars costing the taxpayers. It comes a time when we must regulate and police ourselves. And we must state, when you reach a point where it's evident that you feel you can operate above and beyond the laws, something must be done. And I urge the council to police themselves. Draft some ordinance, or I will be more than glad to provide them with some. That when you identify an individual council person, alderman, exceeding the scope of services, and it's clearly shown that their behavior over time has cost the taxpayer well in excess of $1, $2, $3 million, you must do something. And so that we understand, when I speak, I'm only going to speak facts to you. I urge you to look at the involvement with Alderman Bauman, his push towards the Boston store move. I think that resulted in $1.5 million cost to the city. We did recover some from escrow. But immediately when it moved forward, Boston store filed bankruptcy, and almost instantly we lose the money. I recall an incident on 27th in Wisconsin where that movement by Alderman Bauman cost the city somewhere around the neighborhood of $1 million. Project we haven't done anything with. But the taxpayer have to absorb and commit illegal acts. Thank you.
Can you walk us through why taxpayers will be responsible for this $1.4 million?
Well, when the council agreed to indemnify, meaning if you're found guilty personally, we will absorb that cost. Now, this is not something that I frown totally on, because I think in order to do public service, we need to have certain assurities that we can do our work. However, when we start to seek to exceed what we're voted in to do, and we bring our personal biases into a job, and thinking we are above law, then it should stop. You know, we should be able to take that in consideration and say, no, you're not going to be indemnified after it's shown that you intentionally did this knowingly. So that's an indemnification where lands that cost and payment onto the taxpayer.
City Attorney, you mentioned the AG's office, the U.S. Attorney's office. Are you advocating for criminal investigations into Alderman Bauman?
Well, what I will tell you is, I stated there are other matters being pursued as well. There's a number of people, aldermen, elected officials, that will be under investigation and that are under investigation. I can only tell you under investigation. To tell you more may compromise the investigation. So to say that are under investigation, gonna have to be enough for now to answer those questions.
Under investigation for what?
Well, there's a litany of activities, allegations, statements that need to be looked into, and behavior.
How long has this been going on?
Well, that's a good question. This has been going on, I think, for a while, I could say, honestly. But again, you have to allow a person to commit certain acts. If someone bring up to you idea or an issue that something is occurring, you have to have time to investigate. So I would say some of this activity has been going on well over a year, from the time I've been in office.
Are you concerned you're compromising your client, Alderman Bauman, with regards to...
Absolutely not. Alderman Bauman is a client like everyone else is a client. What I don't do is, we have a municipal firm, municipal. We are not in the furtherance of illegal acts and criminal acts. This would never have been spoken about had it not been publicized the other day. So I'm not speaking of anything that has not been public record. So I take the confidentiality of my clients very dear, and I make sure that I'm very fair with all that I do. And I can't say that all the time about some of the folks that report innuendos, slander. When you have facts and they're not reported, we ask why. But I don't get into the personal things. Whether you exercise your own bias when you report something or lack of reporting, that's you. Now, personally, I don't own subscriptions to certain of these medias because I don't believe in subscribing to what I believe is very close to tabloid reporting. Now, I've had my issues with Journal Sentinel, and I see how they report, and I make myself available, but I get calls in the 11th hour when I'm in meetings, told, listen, I'm writing a story. You need to respond now. I can't stop what I'm doing to respond to you just because that's convenient for you. But then it'll be reported in a way that I'm unwilling to respond or the like. I'm available. I'm available for others. But if you don't report the truth, I'm not going to indulge in that. I've attempted on many occasions, you are with Urban Milwaukee, are you not? With you and the Journal to give stories. You know, when you don't write the story that I give, or when you take out of context what I'm saying, that's problematic. I have even offered to write a statement and present it so it can be published as written, only to be told you're not going to do that, or for whatever reason. You always, the media wants to interpret the way they want to and slander it the way they want to. I don't engage in that. I engage in facts.
I have a factual question.
Absolutely.
So are you saying that Alderman Bauman is currently under investigation by one of these agencies?
I said, and I'll repeat what I said, I have reached out to these agencies to involve and get involved in some of the concerns and to investigate some of the current concerns that I have involving a number of aldermen.
But you said some of the, have the investigations been going on for more than a year, or the activities been going on for more than a year?
Well, you know, I reported that I gave you some dates of some activities that need to be looked into. And the investigation starts when I get an allegation. You know, I have a fiduciary duty to my client as well as the constituents that voted me in office. You know, and if there's something going on, we have to look into it. So it starts there with the complaint.
Have you gotten response from these other agencies yet? Do you know whether other agencies are actively investigating?
I'm not going to address that. And so, with that being said, I'm letting you know there's a meeting scheduled tomorrow for the committee, the Neighborhood Development Committee, it's a city, where there will be an attempt to usurp again and remove certain agreements and aspects of the agreement that we agreed upon to get to the bottom of this issue. And what I've done, I took the liberty so we don't have any guessing. I myself provided a copy of my position where I didn't have to. But I did it because I thought they should know. And only then did we find a response to them trying to now usurp having a third party investigator. So now you can be your own judge. I brought along copies of that information for you to digest and read, the same thing that the third party will be reviewing. You make your own judgment. You make your own judgment to the facts as I laid them out.
So you said you were only dealing with facts and you won't engage in innuendo, but you just told us that you think illegal activities may be going on here, but you won't tell us what they are. Isn't that innuendo?
Absolutely not.
And why is that not innuendo?
It's not an innuendo because I'm not privy to tell you what information or what allegations have been made in an investigation. So whether or not I should appear and tell you who said what when is not your concern. After the investigation is concluded, then it will become your concern. Until that time, we will not spread rumors about something other than the fact that investigations are ongoing. So if you consider that an innuendo, it's a statement of fact. So I'm sorry that that's your interpretation, but I hope that makes it very clear to you. So however you want to interpret it, sir, do it. What I just said, I made it very clear. There are ongoing investigations.
Just to clarify, you said a number of elected officials. Can you put a number on how many?
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not going to do that. And again, I reported to you what I thought was pertinent now. I reported to you what's trying to be afoot tomorrow. And I want to make it very clear because I'm putting the other council people on notice. If they continue and try to usurp the process, sweep it under the rug, it will most definitely be viewed as them being complicit in that same activity. So I urge them to let the third party impartial mediator review it and conclude. And then they could come back and revisit the vote. So
That you have received complaints about various alderpeople?
thank you very much, and I appreciate you coming out. You know, if there are some other things you might want to know, please try to arrange for a meeting with me, and I'd be more than pleased, if my schedule permitted, to go more in depth in certain things that I can. But what I can't talk about, I will not talk about. Thank you.